What review should I do for the Halloween special today?
Come watch The Shining with us, Chris. Come watch The Shining forever, ever, ever.
Okay.
What?
Yeah, let's watch it. I mean, I love that movie. Let's watch it.
Okay.
Welcome back to the 5th annual Halloween special, and we are now talking about my favorite horror film of all time. Stanley Kubrick's The Shining has inspired an entire generation of filmmakers and film lovers and multiple generations after that, and it's going to continue to do that because it is actually that good. Critics didn't quite know what to make of this movie when it was released. It received very mixed reviews from professionals as well as audience members. It was one of the earliest films to have a huge star like Jack Nicholson and be very metaphorical and philosophical without any hard answers. It left you wondering what exactly you just saw. It was vastly different from Stephen King's original novel, which, much to King's dismay, has displeased him for years as well. It was even nominated for a Razzie Award, which is just insane, because this film is basically perfect. There are few films that I look at and think, I don't actually think there is a flaw. Ridley Scott's original Alien being one, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining being another. My history with this movie is kind of interesting because for a long time my parents were like, you can't watch that one. That one's just too much. And I was always like, but I always wanted to watch it so bad because I love horror and I obviously like Jack Nicholson. But as a kid, I remember being very frightened by the concept of actually watching it, but it intrigued me. It was one of those films that when I eventually saw it, I'm pretty sure I hid it from my parents. I can't remember for sure the first time I saw The Shining. I believe it was on TV in the middle of the night. And I watched it thinking, I don't want to tell my parents this. If you have been watching my reviews for a while, whenever I'm in this background, you may have noticed that I have the photograph that shows at the very end of The Shining printed right there. That photograph has caused debate amongst film lovers for decades. What does it mean? It chills me to the bone every time I watch it, because the entire film beforehand is so unsettling as you watch Jack Torrance and his family get torn apart by some kind of supernatural presence that's in this hotel. And the whole film from beginning to end just gives you such shiver-inducing goosebumps that last photo makes you feel so on edge. Uneasy even, because you don't know what it means. Has he been there this entire time? Was someone who looked like him there before? And that is the genius of Kubrick. He will show you amazing images. He will present to you an essentially perfect film, and then you leave not knowing exactly what you just saw, but you know you want to see it again. From the opening shot of The Shining, this film has some of the best cinematography and camera work that I've ever had the pleasure of seeing. Tons of people over the years have analyzed this movie and tried to explain it, because that's just what we do nowadays. We want to look at something, we want to figure out exactly what it means. The beauty of The Shining is that there are multiple interpretations. And that's something I love about this film in particular, is that you can watch it, you can feel that you understand it and have a closeness to it, and then you can hear 10,000 other theories and be like, oh, well, that's kind of interesting. It's a film that keeps giving and giving. There's a documentary about it called Room 237, which, if you watch that as a documentary about what The Shining means, it's kind of silly. But if you watch it as a documentary about fan obsession, it's rather fascinating, because a lot of the theories in that documentary are just absurd and they don't make any sense to me at all. But if you watch it and view it from the lens of these are obsessed people and this is what it does to your brain, then it's kind of interesting. I mean, there are people who have made up theories about the Apollo moon landing and that Kubrick is admitting and apologizing for faking the footage in this movie. It's insane just how much this film has impacted people. I gotta talk about Jack Nicholson. This is in my top 10 favorite performances ever. Steven Spielberg once mentioned the first time he saw The Shining, he thought Nicholson was really bad. And he didn't quite understand exactly what the character was going for or what Kubrick was going for. And the next few times Spielberg watched it, he admitted to it being a fantastic performance. When you first watch Jack Nicholson in The Shining, it does seem a little weird if you've never seen the movie before because he's almost in a comedy. He's so lighthearted in certain scenes, even in the specifically horrific ones. Hi, Lloyd. The scenes at the bar with Lloyd are some of my favorites of all time. Whenever a friend of mine does something and I want to thank them, I'll go, good man. I do it all the time. They're so quotable. I'd never hurt a hair on his goddamn head. I love the little son of a bitch. But as you watch his sanity continuously break down as he's affected by whatever this presence is at this hotel, it's absolutely riveting, leading to another scene that is so frightening but oddly funny as well, with Jack stalking Shelley up the stairs. I'm not gonna hurt you. Honey, light of my life, I said I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in. The imagery as well is so haunting. The twins in the hallway, the blood coming out of the elevator. Just the tone set up by the musical score, which was also very revolutionary. One of the first musical scores for a horror film to be mostly noises without any real themes. There's a theme in the beginning, but for the most part, the score here is just a lot of unsettling sounds. Tons of horror movies since have copied off of this.
You've had your whole fucking life to think things over. What good's a few minutes more gonna do you now?
Stay away from me. Please.
The entire film from the opening to the closing just drenches you and permeates your soul with this crushing weight of dread. There is not a single other horror movie that's been able to accomplish this. Let's talk about Scatman Crothers as well. Excellent here. He understands that young Danny has this ability to shine. It's a psychic ability, and he is able to talk to him in that way. And the way Kubrick does this, it's so realistic. There's never a moment in this movie that feels as if it's become over the top, despite Jack Nicholson's humongous performance. Somehow, he's able to ground all of this in reality to where you believe everything that's happening. And that's just one reason Kubrick is such a master. He can show you some of the craziest things, some of the most over-the-top performances, like in Dr. Strangelove with Peter Sellers, and you believe it all, because he keeps it real. His films feel real. Famously, Shelley Duvall was not treated very well on set by Kubrick. Some have said it's because he was just being an ass, and others have said that it's because he was doing that so that she would give off a very miserable performance. Whatever his motivation was, it worked. She is devastated throughout this entire movie. Even in the opening scenes where shit hasn't quite hit the fan yet, and she's talking with the doctor that's visited her house about the past with her kid Danny and the maybe abuse that happened, you can tell that she is just on edge. She's really great here, and her performance is underrated. She often gets hate, and I don't think it's warranted. And Danny Lloyd still has given one of the best child performances of all time. This film is the gift that keeps on giving. Every time I watch it, which is at least once a year, I find myself inspired by it again. It has influenced so many filmmakers. It's influenced myself. It's my favorite horror movie of all time. And of course, I'm going to give The Shining an A+. Guys, thank you so much for continuing to watch the Halloween special. We have some more stuff coming for you very soon. You guys are the best. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.